Welcome back to The Charismatic Voice. It is my goal to deeply listen to and analyze all of the nominees for Best Metal Performance for the Grammys this year. Unsurprisingly, Metallica is on that list. And I have heard Lux Aeterna from their new album, but I haven't heard the title track yet, so let's get to it. That production is crunchy, crispy. This is a pretty long introduction to a song. It feels like we just got into it right there. And I think that is very intentional on their end as a way to bring somebody into the album. I believe that this is the first track on the album, title track as well. And it definitely has a way to draw in. I really like the production at the beginning, especially, right? That there's like this crispy, sizzly kind of sound. And overall, it sounds like they have the high end pretty hot in the production, meaning that it's very crispy in general throughout. But there was one part in particular that I just loved. I'm going to come back to that moment. It's sort of the swell right before it digs in, maybe here. So it's fascinating because it feels almost like a digital swell, but there is a sort of explosion in the sound right there that also it doesn't feel as digital, but they've married the two together, and so it essentially has a digital swell into a drum crash. Very dissident as well. It's like we're being uploaded to the Matrix. Right, and I think that's a really cool way to draw us into something that's going to feel very fast, very intense. It's like we are going to take you on a wild ride. That's what that says to me. Let's go back to the beginning. It's also got some nice heft in the bass for the footprints or footsteps. Listen to the crackling in the fire. That's what I mean by crispy in there. That upper end is super present. That's exciting. I really like this image. This one where there's all of these particles kind of fuzzing around. We have so much in the top end of the drum kit here. It's like I want to say it sounds like something in the hats. It's just, it's again, pretty hot, pretty flashy. And this visual to me is what that audio sounds like. There's lots of sparkle, almost like grain in the sound up there. And there's a lot of space here, which I think is intentional to let it be filled later. Those riffs are related to each other melodically. That's interesting. I like the way it feels kind of thrashy when we get into this part. I've read some reviews of this album overall. I'm really trying to dig into Metallica at this point, understand where they've come from, where they're going, because they're still going, even though it's been, what, 40 years? It's They have made such a massive impact in music in general, obviously in metal, really defining the genre of metal. So I think it's essential for me to understand them. Though I have to say, I've been saving a lot of their songs for first time listens and analyses. So it's almost difficult at times when I'm saving those songs for you guys to get as full of a picture of a band as I would like. I'm probably going to just start listening to more of them on my own time so I can understand a bit better. But that being said, what I've read is that a lot of people feel that they're coming back to their original sound. And maybe they started doing that a few years ago. And this feels to me more like the thrashy Master of Puppets kind of sound. And it's definitely has some great, great energy in there. Though there was a very lingering kind of soundtrack effect, which I've enjoyed in tons of their songs as well. One is a great example where they're involving so much of the Foley of the sound effects into their actual sound in a regular song instead of just a soundtrack for a film. I think that they've combined those very well in the intro, and then we got this thrashy thing when it gets going. Boop. Oh, nice. I love the way they vary their sound just by how much is filled in at different times. Sometimes they're filling in with tons of different notes. Sometimes they're filling in with elongating the sounds. And sometimes they're actually filling in by giving space and creating anticipation for the next thing. But they're really specific about when they do it, and it changes the entire vibe from one phrase to the next. It makes you kind of, I guess, want to headbang in a different way, like toss the hair this way instead of this way. It changes the vibe really well. Right, tons of stuff going on here as well. And that drum groove just majorly shifted it.
Beating on the rhythm man, shut down. Dramatic, time haunted by the past. Long gone, dogmatic, although the die is cast. Shut down, organic, but what is done and done. Look back, psychotic, no chance before this life began.
All right, let's talk about James Hetfield's voice. First of all, I actually think he's aging really, really well at this point. I know that he had some sort of troubles that he encountered earlier on. I believe he saw a voice coach, shifted things around. For those of you who are singing, if you encounter troubles, it is not the end of the world. You just may need to shift some things so that you can have a really long, blossoming career. And it sounds like he's maintaining that vocal health really well. It might be shifting just a tiny bit down where it's sitting, but that might just be the songs that I've listened to as well. I hear that wonderful aggressive edge that I feel is so important for his signature sound. He has a continuation underneath. There's a certain legato nature where he's always singing through a line, yet has both really defined consonants and enunciation on top of it to make it really rhythmic instead of just a blah of sing. And then in addition to that, there's this bite and a tiny bit of gravel on the sound, which I think is probably coming from an upper laryngeal constriction that's creating that little bit of gravel rather than it being done at a true vocal fold level. If it was being done at a true vocal fold level, I would raise my eyebrows and say, how can you have done this for 40 years? Maybe that's the trouble he had earlier. Let's go back a little bit and I'll talk a little more detail about some of the awesome things I hear him doing. There's so many good riffs in here. Almost too many. That's a great example. I love the energy of the intro, the way it is so grabbing, immediately in your face. Metallica's sound at this point is very in your face, and if you did anything subtle, it just wouldn't work as an entry. Part of the way he's able to be so in your face is the way his mouth is working on that enunciation. I like to call him a Pez dispenser because it's like wah, 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 to get all those sounds out. That was a good view of his mouth movement too. So his mouth shapes and his vocal approach here are basically the opposite of grunge. If you've heard me talk about grunge, the way that they actually almost have a lazy approach to vocal technique, they keep their mouth quite closed. It's very intentional. Okay, they're going for casual, so it isn't actually lazy, but some classically trained people or people that are following perhaps more of that classical traditional singing technique would look at it and say, oh, that's just bad. So grunge mouths tend to be a lot more closed, and his is, again, that Pez dispenser, which really helps with the aggressive edge. Let's keep going. Staring into black light. Ooh. Dominating. I really liked that reverb tail there. Staring into black light. Whoa, nice. Dominating blood fright. Oh, there it is again. Huh. There is so much rhyme in these lyrics, which he's leaning heavily into as well for how they've placed the different syllables. When I read through the lyrics ahead of time, it struck me how there was so much interesting play within meaning, within rhyme, also just in syllabification. But things like, was it crash into or split into? And the way that those are into one word or in two, things like that, where there's so much play with the way that the words sound and the things that the words mean. I think it's just fascinating. I feel like you can go on an incredible deep dive with the lyrics. But then I'm listening now to how he's set them with the different pitches, and you can tell he's really emphasizing and leaning into those first lyrical choices. Dominating blood fright. They just went into. So deliberately putting the same melodic setting, which is actually just a couple of the same pitches, on into both times that appeared with the different grammatical structure. Again, awesome reverb tail there. That's an awesome riff. I love the way that feels so sticky. It has this like da-da-da, 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 da-da-da-da-da-da, right? And it's this 1-2 hit kind of thing that we've got going on. Often you say something, you say it again, and you say it a little bit differently in music, and that can create something that feels catchy because you hear it the second time, you're like, oh, I recognize that. And then it makes you more interested because the third time you recognize it, but it goes somewhere new. It's really, really good structure to follow in composition. Let's go back just a little more. Catch that whole thing again. I love that guitar tone. Oh, nice. Nice. I love the way that he again entered with like a really aggressive tone, but we were picking up from that guitar solo, just essentially having this incredible handoff of the energy, directing us right back into the song. That was a beautiful, beautiful transition. He sounds so hooked into his support here. You can just tell when a person is attaching the sounds that they're making to a lower sense of support. When people try to just make them here, they tend to get tight, especially as it's elongated over time, as they're sustaining. There's a growing tension and this sense of less grounding in the voice. When they're attached to a lower sense of support, meaning that you're actually relying on muscles below your diaphragm to connect up this entire feeling of the breath, the entire respiratory structure supporting the singing. When that's hooked in, there's this grounded power that a singer can access. And I hear that so steadily in his voice.
Chaotic, completely lost control. Shoot back, fanatic, with a unbelieving shadow cast it back. Narcotic, blinded by the ashes of the past.
That kind of suspense in mouth is so good.
Staring into black lights.
Love the shift lower there.
Choking on the stage fright.
That's a fun yell up after gone. I want to point out the way he is matching his vowels really well. So again, leaning into that rhyme structure that he's already created in the lyrics, but things like violence, inheritance. He is so specific about that final vowel, the ents. And some people will go unts, or they would shift the vowel a little bit there. It's kind of a messy schwa vowel a lot of times. And he's so specific about opening it up a little bit more and matching the two. This is just one example of an area where he's very deliberate about vowel selection and matching. It's been happening throughout. Even the ooh vowels are very close. I think it'd be really funny if somebody took his mouth and put some sort of maybe opera, like maybe put some Pavarotti on as the audio background, and then maybe use some AI to match his lip movements to it. The way that he's moving his mouth overall is so similar to classical singers. He's very, very clear about those vowel positions and often returning to an exact one. The way he approaches his diphthongs is more contemporary, and the way he has a little more teeth in the sound, a little more snarl, that's more contemporary specifically to metal. But the wide range of motion that he has and the way he sustains a particular shape, very, very classical. Ooh, that's a fun visual. Wow.
Piercing through, cutting to, polarized. Point of view.
Awesome. Two choices there that I think were really effective. For me, the song was starting to feel a little bit long, which I'm the person that says I'm spoiled by metal, right? I like my songs to be long. I like for them to develop, but it was starting to feel like it wasn't developing as much. I think I needed my ears to be cleaned out. So they gave that space in the sound that helped to clear them out. And then I really liked the harmonies that popped in here that felt really very fresh to me.
Piercing through, cutting to, polarized. Point of view, crashing to, paralyzed.
That was a turn. Ooh. This feels like some very mature mature writing that takes time to explore an idea thoroughly. I feel that some of their earlier stuff that I've heard feels like it almost moves more quickly overall. And this, when you get an idea from them, a lot of times they're taking quite a while to expand it. And it's doing the progressive thing where it's shifting into another idea, right? It taking us on different journeys. But each idea is, I feel like it's languished in a little bit longer than maybe some early Metallica that I've heard. Again, like this is still from a rather narrow scope, and I am Still learning a ton about it. So if I'm wrong, call me out in the comments. Tell me in that live premiere chat. I love to hear what you guys think about these songs. So I hope that you will join me and tell me that in live premieres, okay? We're going to go back just a little bit and languish with them. I just really love the way that vocal intro every time has been so dang grabbing. And going back to that languishing idea, by the way, this is, again, I think the first track from their album. And Lux Aeterna was later on. That one was much shorter, and it felt almost like it just blasts through. So it almost, I feel that this is a very deliberate decision to languish in some of these ideas a little bit longer because they chose not to do that as much in Lux Aeterna. Let's keep going.
Gun thoughts, deep seed, stigmatic. Some have and some have not. Man down, demonic. No mercy from the ghost within. Turn back, hypnotic. There's breathing out, but not back in.
Let's just take a quick moment with these lyrics and talk about the meaning underneath. I know James Hetfield at one point said that the original thought for the album, I believe, was title was maybe 72 Seasons of Sorrow, essentially talking about the seasons in a person's life that they go through. But they've taken away the sorrow and just left it at 72 seasons because he was talking about the point of view of younger life and how those first 18 years weren't just full of sorrow. But then that made me think, well, were your adult years just full of sorrow? Well, but Metallica has been through tons of phases, different ups and downs for sure. So I can get that. And when you look at the lyrics, there's a lot here that I think is talking about James Hetfield's past, growing up in a very dogmatic situation. It even says dogmatic at one point in the lyrics. I was really interested in no mercy from the ghost within, meaning that essentially whatever your past is, it just can keep coming back. And it even says there's breathing out, but not back in. It has this idea of essentially almost escaping what you've done in earlier life to continue into the next season. And I think as a band, they also have set up so many different expectations from earlier in their career that they're trying now to meet. This title, 72 Seasons, might be an expression of the band that's saying, hey, like, this is hard to do, having such a long career, recreating yourself over and over with a new album and not knowing if that one's going to hit as well as the previous one did or as well as the next one will. Oh my gosh, there's so much pressure to just nail it every time. I like the allowance of the idea of seasons for them and for James Hetfield in particular. I also think it's just something that's really relatable to all humans.
Man down, demonic. No mercy from the ghost within. Turn
That
back,
line.
hypnotic. There's breathing out, but not back in. Staring into black light.
I like that shift.
Permanently midnight.
I like the way that particular texture feels like it just demolishes my stomach. One more time. Ooh. All right, space and low.
Permanently midnight.
Nice holler off there. Just really, one more time right there. The holler off is delicious. Good space again. I think they are so aware that at this point in the song, people's ears might be getting a little fatigued. And they're almost hyper aware of their sound, right? How can you not be after such a long career? Again with the Foley. Nice direction. I feel like I'm in a movie theater. The way that they used that vocal intro that was so grabbing as an outro, I feel is a way to grab you into the rest of the album. As an album starter, I think this song works very, very well. Now, is it going to win the Grammy? I'll give you some thoughts on that soon. I'm going to be putting up a video that's my opinion on who is going to win the Grammy and maybe who I think should win the Grammy. We'll talk about all of that soon. You can check that link out over here. It might not be posted yet because I'm not sure when we're going to publish it. But if it's not there yet, something else that has Metallica in it will be. May you fall more in love with music every day.